turn on the microphone, turn on the audio, and yeah, I guess we can start getting started. Okay, a lot of fun. A lot of computers and things and stuff to look at. I'm usually sitting down for this. I'm not used to this anymore. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us this wonderful Thursday. This is the New Orleans Game Dev Meetup, and you're all New Orleans game developers. Mr. Producer Calder, why don't you span the camera around to our audience? As you can see, we're meeting here in the lovely city of New Orleans in person for the first time in over a year. Pretty incredible for us. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for sticking up with us for over the year. My name is Curtis. I'm one of our organizers here. I'm joined by Calder, who's here, and then Ben, who's over there. There he is. You see him. He's got the glasses. I didn't narrow it down with the crowd, but you know, whatever. So yeah, we got a very fun, presentation tonight. We are joined by the illustrious GeographyOfRobots, who's going to tell us about the great game that will come out approximately Hell is a Place for with Patience. Is the release date listed on Steam? Do you fellas want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I can't see y'all's video, just FYI.
It's on Twitch.
Oh, it's on Twitch. No shit. Okay.
Yeah, I just found it myself.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you
Right
can't
on.
use the
Yeah,
camera in two places, so you just got to watch the stream and be a couple seconds behind.
I hear you. Okay, cool. Right on. I'll get that figured out. But yeah, I'll just give a quick introduction. So I use a pseudonym associated with this project, Yuts, Y-U-T-S, and I've been sort of messing around with game dev stuff probably for about 6 years, and pretty much the entire time I've been working on this nebulous project that has congealed into NORCO, which is kind of like a psychogeographic exploration of the river parishes upriver from New Orleans. And I'll let Aaron introduce himself, but Aaron came onto the project about a year ago, and that all happened virtually over Instagram, basically. But yeah, I'll let him say a few words.
Yeah, hi, I'm Aaron. Just like you said, I came onto the project about a year ago. Whenever we started working with the publisher, I was previously doing some marketing work out in LA, doing like advertising games on Snapchat and stuff. But I've been working with Unity for years now, and so been having a lot of fun just helping get this project in Unity and kind of tuning it up and doing whatever work.
Sweet. Well, thank you all for coming. I know a few of us have been following the project for, I think the first time I saw it was like 2, maybe 3 years ago. If that sounds like a reasonable timeline. Yeah, since I started getting people to talk here, I've wanted to get you all to come and spread the word of your wonderful game, because NORCO, if you're unfamiliar, is a place that's actually pretty close to New Orleans. I forget what NORCO actually stands for. It's like something about oil in New Orleans.
New Orleans Refining Company.
Yeah, New Orleans Refining Company.
Yeah, that's right. It's New Orleans Refining Company. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a place called Cancer Alley? That's where NORCO is. Great name for a great place. Very beautiful. Fire lights up the sky. Signifies the death of our great planet. It's very hot today. Anyway, so yeah, if y'all want to take it away. I didn't make any slides for this month because I'm a lazy man and there's not really all that much to talk about. Our only community announcement is we're meeting in person. So, hooray, go us.
And the strawberry jam.
Oh yeah, there's also the strawberry jam. Calder, you want to get?
About that at the,
Yeah, we can wait till the end for that. Okay. Yeah, let's we're all here for the meat and potatoes, so let's get to the main event, or not meat if you don't eat meat. So yeah, go take away, share your screen, do whatever you got to do. We're just gonna hang out. We'll ask you questions.
So the looks like the screen share is disabled on my end. When I hit share screen, I see a little notification that says host disabled participant.
Yeah, go down to security to the left.
Oh God.
And then check the box that says share screen. Yeah, always forget about that. You should be good now.
Okay, right on. Let me get this. All right. Okay. So, are y'all able to see Google slideshow?
We got it. It's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I threw a bunch of slides together, but I haven't really prepared my thoughts, so we can keep this super informal. If anyone has questions as I'm moving through this stuff, by all means, just ask whenever. I'm just gonna more or less ramble. So also stop me if I'm going off on a tangent that's not too interesting. We can take it in whatever direction y'all like. But the game NORCO. It's a point and click text adventure. It's also sort of a quasi dream journal. It's a little surreal. It's a very personal project, and I'm not my career before I got into all this was actually geospatial science and mapping. And I've always been really interested in geography, and specifically the geography of the river parishes. And when I was working on this game, it was actually kind of an outgrowth of some oral history and geography projects that I was involved in with some friends. So the character of the game is a little experimental in that regard. We sort of explore the geography of Greater New Orleans and the river parishes, and we kind of allow that to take primacy as a storytelling mechanism in several ways. But this is the key art for the game. And it was painted by Jesse Jacoby, who is Pit of Bones, Pit_of_Bones on Instagram. Really, really talented painter. He painted this in oil. And he's actually just in the last few weeks joined the project to help me out with the pixel art. And so we've been kind of going back and forth, kind of building out a coherent style for us to use in the game. Up until this point, it's been me pixeling, and it's it's pretty time consuming. The landscapes of the game, I try to the degree that I can to capture the sort of cerebral elements of Louisiana's landscape, and through sort of a psychedelic realism to the degree that I can. And this in the game is your childhood. You play the protagonist. You play as the protagonist, Kay, who's returned to NORCO after several years traveling because your mom died. You return home and you quickly realize that she left behind a kind of weird legacy, and you sort of just follow her, the rabbit hole that she left behind, and it takes you all throughout the western suburbs of New Orleans into some surreal spaces and situations, and along the way you explore a lot of thematic elements of New Orleans that I think I'm sure a lot of folks here tonight are probably familiar with. This is another landscape from the game. It's a gas station down the street from Kay's house. There's a lot of environments in New Orleans. There's City Hall, or its location for now. The image on the left is the New Orleans overworld map. You've got three primary overworld maps. One is the River Parish area around NORCO, so mainly in St. Charles Parish. Then you've got the Greater New Orleans map, and those are belong to two separate timelines that unfold in the game. One timeline is the protagonist, Kay, and the other timeline is that of her mom, and you play through kind of the months leading up to her death. Or I'm sorry, one evening. You play one evening and several months before her death, and you're navigating through Greater New Orleans as Kay's mom. There's a feature called a mind map. It's a very textual game. I took inspiration from a lot of literature as well as a lot of literary games. Like I don't know if y'all like Hideo Kojima's Snatcher or Deja Vu for NES or any of these games that are very text-heavy adventure games. That's a genre that I really liked growing up, and that was kind of my reference point when I started working on this game. But there are a lot of it's thanks to Aaron, but a lot more kind of dynamic, kinetic gameplay elements now than there were, say, a year and a half, 2 years ago. But this mechanic right here, it's your mind map. It's a way of building connections between locales in the game. And the prose that's written on the left right here describes your mom's metastatic cancer, which cancer plays a pretty significant role in the progression of the narrative. And this right here is kind of a cancer map that you encounter later on in the game that kind of animates the progression of both Catherine, Kay's mom's cancer, as well as another character named Doug, who is experiencing similar symptoms, who grew up in Diamond. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Diamond, but Diamond's a neighborhood in NORCO that was a quote-unquote fence line community that was bought up by Shell. The neighborhood had fought for their relocation for decades and finally kind of won over public opinion, and Shell helped to finance their relocation. But there were a lot of very, very high incidents of cancer, as well as there was, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the 1988 Shell explosion, but that impacted that neighborhood really heavily. And that is also actually an event that is treated in the game. Let's see. Yeah, so this is I pulled this slide from another, it was actually the sort of a deck. I had to put together a deck for the publisher to kind of describe what the game was. And this is taken from that, and it's describing some of the inspiration behind the game, the thematic elements, sprawling complexity and cascading disaster is in the DNA of the game. You don't encounter any hurricanes or floods or explosions or anything like that, but the legacy of those events are very much baked into the narratives. And you encounter kind of interactions, dialogue interactions, and memories and other things that kind of piece together the interconnected nature of the various disasters that we encounter in South Louisiana. And this is also, I mentioned Diamond as one of these fence line communities that is sometimes gets called an X-town in the literature, in environmental justice literature and things. Another community that actually my great-grandparents lived in, which is Good Hope, which is on the other side of the Shell Motiva facility from Diamond, which is a small port town. And you can watch over the course of the 20th century as it gets eaten up by the industrial growth of the neighboring refinery. That's a neighborhood that's within the geographic area of interest in the game. You have a phenomenon in river parishes that y'all might be familiar with, where you find graveyards behind industrial fence lines, and this is the mechanism that leads to that. It's this industrial growth over residential land uses, and the residential footprint slowly disappears, and which is very consequential in a lot of ways. One of which is that the Mississippi River's high ground levees are the most flood resistant, in the region, and so land uses in the 500-year floodplain, and replacing it with heavy industry. So that raises the sort of net environmental precarity of the neighborhood. And so that's just a little bit of context of sort of where this game is situated geographically. A lot of this came out of like I said, an oral history and psychogeography project that I was involved in post-Katrina, where me and a friend would try to find intersections of all of these different narratives in the landscape, and through various kinds of media. We were taking photographs, we were making movies, we were in this case, we drove out to the pine woods of southwest Louisiana and just projected some shit on an old couch that we found. We were just doing all kinds of things. And that spirit of kind of cerebral experimentation and trying to maintain a kind of demeanor and disposition towards these landscapes that allow you to find unconventional connections and things like that that is the spirit of the game. That's the kind of animating force behind NORCO is searching for those kinds of things. And like I said, sort of geospatial components are a big part of the game. This is something we implemented recently, which is like a little geospatial puzzle where you're trying to move security drones around the refinery in such a way that you can gain access to the entrance of the refinery. And this is an actual map. It's a street map of NORCO, so you're kind of interacting with the geography of NORCO here. This is the overworld map of NORCO, and you can actually see the Good Hope community that I mentioned, as well as Dines. If you look, the bottom left, there's kind of I need to redraw this. Actually, it's a little noisy, but the main refinery area that's outlined in bright green is the Shell oil refinery. I use the name Shield so we don't get sued, but the Shell oil refinery there outlined in green, and then across from is a much smaller facility, which is the chemical refinery, and between those two is just a blank strip of land, and that blank strip of land is diamond. And in the game, there is only one resident that remains a diamond, and that plays a kind of critical role in your progression through the game. Let's see, I can't remember. Oh yeah, so this is my sister is actually helping us out with some stuff, and we've got these puzzles where you're using a augmented reality app. I was just working on this today. It looks a lot more polished as of 3 hours ago, but you using AR, there's a whole segment of the game. So Act 1 deals more sort of with the just immediate aftermath of your mom's death and trying to piece together all of these different narrative strands. And Act 2, you move more into the refinery in Kay's timeline, and then in Catherine, her mom's timeline, you actually encounter a group of without saying too much, Esplanade Mall plays a big role in the game, and you encounter sort of this Gnostic Christian influencer who is plays a major role in the events as they unfold. And it's kind of an attempt. I mean, one thing I'm fascinated by, and for anyone who's grown up in South Louisiana in sort of a religious household, and I grew up Christian, went to a Catholic school, and have had sort of like a on and off relationships with my faith throughout my life, and I'm always really fascinated by like the younger crowd of very online sort of secular individuals who really like this sort of trad path kind of phenomenon, really wanting to find faith and really yearning for it as an experience that's kind of alien or foreign. And that's something that in various ways gets explored throughout the game as well. I don't know if I have anything after this actually. Oh yes, there's you can follow this project on Twitter or Instagram. I manage the social media stuff, and I just kind of post as me and Aaron, and I forgot to even mention the composer, Udali, who's a brilliant composer who's played a bunch of like punk and electro bands over the years, and is just sort of a brilliant person and has contributed a lot to the project. But I just sort of aggregate all of the various things we're working on in the game and post them to social media. So if any of this stuff interests you, definitely follow along. And I don't know if you've got stuff you want to add, but otherwise we can switch over to questions.
No, I think I'm good to go over the questions.
All right. Sweet. That was awesome. Thanks, Al.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
If anyone has any questions, we're going to do something fun. You can come up and sit in the camera chair talking to the microphone.
Move the camera around, whatever works.
Well, it's so they can hear.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah. And also the stream.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could share a bit about the process for the pixel art, because it's very standout. I want to hear if that's more reference photo since it's based on a real place, which is, I mean, really cool to hear. Or if that's by hand. And then real quick, since it sounds like you have a goal with the narrative or a story to tell, how much is it one strict story, or does the player have branching paths or other outcomes or anything like that?
Right. So first question, the pixel art is I have a box. So the way it started is I have a box of old 35 millimeter like gas station disposable camera pictures that I would use as reference photos for random environmental landscapes and things. And I actually tried to use that for color reference as well. I've kind of sent my color theory has evolved a bit, so I've moved away from that. But yeah, reference photos were a big part of it. I actually moved, so all throughout COVID and for a long while before that, I've been living in Central Virginia because my girlfriend got a job up here, so we moved up here a couple of years ago, and so that was not long before I signed the contract with the publisher. And so I've been having, my mom will sometimes send me pictures, from stuff along the road and stuff when I need reference pictures. So I've been kind of crowdsourcing reference photos among friends here and there as well. And yeah, as far as the second question, it's a fairly linear game, but it does open up at times. There are a good number of locations both on the NORCO map, and I forgot to mention there's a third map as well that we're developing right now of Lake Pontchartrain, where there's all these locations in Lake Pontchartrain you can visit, and each map is open. You can move to different locations, and there are locations that are interconnected. You can navigate between rooms in the house and things like that. It's a sort of first-person point-and-click adventure, but you can navigate in a kind of semi-open world, semi-open space. So there's a lot of non-linearity there, and there are interactive elements of the environments that you can explore in kind of a non-linear way. But as far as the narrative,
is there things that the player can miss on a first playthrough and want to go back and search for?
Yeah, there are. We bottleneck people at certain points, because the asset generation takes so goddamn long. We have to kind of keep things pretty linear, but there are definitely things, interactive elements of the landscape they can miss, and there are also sort of dialogue that will expose certain aspects of case past, etc., that you can definitely miss. There's a lot of branching dialogue paths that you can follow that converge at certain critical points in the plot.
See a bunch of dead looking trees and like try to, snap a shot out the window and be like, oh, this makes such a great background. So it's really cool seeing
totally.
Local places and having that, in the narrative and all that. So,
Hell
it's
yeah.
awesome to see. I'll definitely keep my eye on everything.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. That's such a big part of this too was like me and my sister, who's now pretty actively involved in the project. We used to like wander around like NORCO and Laplace and stuff, and just we would always like daydream about like, what if there was a Resident Evil game in the refinery, like, and then Final Fantasy VII like maps so perfectly onto NORCO that it's like when that game came out, it just became this like this kind of reality map for me of making sense of the environmental justice aspects of the town and stuff. So yeah,
It sounds like a mod waiting to happen then. Somebody come on.
Sure.
Makeover reactor. Of a refinery or something. Anyone else have a question?
Sure enough, that's the one.
Isn't that a question? Here he comes. Sorry about this hammer battery board.
Hello. Can I just say excellent writing? It was really good. I just played the demo. It was fantastic.
Oh hell yeah! Thank you.
I did have a question. There's a part where there's like a really sketchy Santa who tries to stab two homeless guys in the French Quarter. Is that based on any like real life experience? Like that's the most accurate depiction I think I've seen of the French Quarter in any media.
There's yeah, well, so that's sort of a composite of a lot of experiences. I had a neighbor who tried to stab a couple of us actually. But yeah, I used to live in a warehouse at the end of Bank Street, and we had, a lot of interesting experiences there. And I spent a lot of time in the French Quarter. I worked in the French Quarter. I was like, I lived in the Marigny and would just go wander around the French Quarter a lot, just like run into oodles and shit, and like so that all of that French, and then there's like the tour guide who's trying to like score Molly for the people he's touring around and all this other stuff. Like all that stuff is various degrees of true, and yeah, I think people who have spent a lot of time in New Orleans, especially people who have worked in the service industry in the French Quarter, I was trying to like tell that perspective of the French Quarter, like when you're a service industry worker and you're just like, there's just like an onslaught of exhausting people that you have to interact with all the time. That was something I was trying to capture there.
Well, thank you for answering my question. Your game's fantastic.
I appreciate it. And oh yeah, another thing. So if you played the demo one, because I feel like personally the scroll speed of the text is a little slow in the demo. We actually like have added like variable scroll speeds and also autoplay, so you can just like autoplay the dialogue very quickly, which in my opinion like improves the experience.
Any other questions? Oh yeah, here we go.
Hey, I've also played about half an hour of the demo, and it's yeah. I also want to say it's really cool. I'm very impressed. Like I really like as someone who comes from a literature background, I can see you obviously have, you're bringing that to it. I do want to, as someone also who's maybe done some anonymous games or whatever. I don't know. This may not be an appropriate question, but I was curious. If you started developing games kind of in secret or or this game in particular, like again, don't have to answer, but the conflict maybe with work. I think we've all in Louisiana know about the oil and gas industry and how most of the jobs we're offered in the tech industry are in the oil and gas industry, and how hard it is to find a job that's not oil and gas related. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but if you do, I just wanted to throw that
No,
out
I
there.
appreciate the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the pseudonymous like aspect of like because Aaron uses his real name and stuff, but and a lot of people, especially talking to the New Orleans crowd, like I probably know some of y'all, so it can be like kind of awkward sometimes. Like, and I'm also a really easy person to dox, so all of those things combined make it feel almost silly and futile to maintain a pseudonym. My original sort of the original reason I used it is just because I was like posting a lot of stuff on Tumblr, and it was like nobody really uses their name, so it's just kind of part of the culture of like online creators in a certain corner of the internet to just not use your name. And so it felt totally normal and natural until I signed with a publisher, and I decided to maintain the pseudonym. It was less because of that what you mentioned, although that is true. I mean, it's like you don't want to necessarily end up on Shell's like shit list or anything, but I'm honestly more concerned about like 14-year-old fucking trolls on Steam or something. Like I just like don't like the internet, like the internet is anxiety producing in a lot of ways. I like everyone else have a complicated relationship with it, but I just feel generally more comfortable being as anonymous as I can manage to be online. That's just kind of it's always been my relationship to it. I have all my social medias private, etc. So that's kind of the only reason I keep it up.
Anything else from the crowd? There we go.
Hey, I wanted to ask if you could tell us how you got connected with the publisher, and love to hear the story about how that went down.
Oh yeah, totally. So I like posted on Twitter and just said, does anyone want to publish this game? And that was like how it all happened. I like the scout got pinged by someone else, and he reached out to me in my DMs. I actually got hit up by a couple of other publishers as well, but Raw Fury was like, especially there's Johan at Raw Fury who is a really cool and approachable person. So if you're trying to break into that industry, he has all kinds of resources for kind of how to pitch and how to put together a pitch deck and all this other stuff. He's just a really kind of like a valuable asset in my opinion to like the indie game space. But so yeah, he reached out to me. That was it. Like I put up a shameless Twitter post because I was like working on the game constantly in my off hours and without any help and any resources to try to hire or whatever, like get additional help, and I really wanted to see the project through. And so I just posted some shit on Twitter and it worked out.
Any other questions?
Can you ask him what high school he went to?
What high school you go to?
DHS. Destrehan.
I got a question.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Tribeca Festival and what it took to get into that, or maybe like your experience applying for something of that nature?
Yeah, I also realized I'm like taking up all the air, and I kind of want to hear Aaron's perspective. Actually, Aaron, are you down to answer this one?
Yeah, sure. So from my experience just tracking the Slack and all, it was mostly the publisher that got in touch with Tribeca on our behalf. Am I right on that, Yitz?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they did all the submission stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically they would come to
all
us.
I had to do was sign something.
Yeah, exactly. They would come to us and ask for, maybe like promotional materials. They would have people in their publishing in their internal studio that would work with like trailers and get good screenshots and make sure that all the marketing materials were appropriate. And then for us, it was basically just like answering questions and providing those materials and just crossing our fingers and getting anxious. We all had a separate build of the game that wasn't the demo. So we released the demo around the same time as we submitted the build to Tribeca, and they were using, I'm blanking on the name. It's some weird doxing webcam stream service thing that lets you stream your desktop to somebody.
Is it
on
Parsec?
accident
I
all
think
the time.
it's Parsec.
Yeah, Parsec. Yeah, sometimes you just find people moving your mouse around and stuff. That was pretty dope. Yeah, but so that had to run as if it were running on one physical machine. So we basically had to set it up as if it were like a game jam presentation build. So, you know, it would need to reset and basically just be able to be a self-contained looping experience as opposed to the demo where, you know, you can quit the desktop and all that. And that was probably the most interesting thing in my mind about that process.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, and the Tribeca thing was sort of surreal too. Because I mean, we didn't we thought it was a joke that they even submitted the game because it's like a janky pixel game that's like basically just a wall of text. So yeah, the winning it was a yeah. I think Aaron mentioned we were like anxious. The whole process was anxious, including winning it. We were like, well, people are surely gonna hate us now for this victory. Like we're just like two neurotic people who like can't accept any whatever any reward. So we just punished ourselves basically until we forgot about it.
A funny story about actually winning. The day that, I think it was the day or the day after, I had gotten like a lot of teeth removed, like 4 wisdom teeth and a bunch of stuff, and I was just in a complete haze. And he called me saying, "Hey, dude, we won," and I was just like in such a kind of doped up haze. I was like, "All right, man, I'll confirm that tomorrow."
yeah, you were just like on pain meds throughout the entire process, which is kind of a good state to be in. It was surreal. It was just really surreal.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
All right, any other questions? Oh yeah, one more.
Yeah. Y'all mentioned Snatcher and Final Fantasy VII. Were there any other games that were like inspiration for this? Yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron, this is another one I'll kick over to Aaron. I have not, especially since I started working on the game, have not been able to play mini games, but Kentucky Route Zero definitely caught my eye, and I played the first act and thought it was really beautiful, and it did give me confidence to see, you know, they were taking direct inspiration from a lot of Southern Gothic literature and stuff, which is what I've always been interested in. And I think seeing that and seeing it, that it can be executed and that it could be positively received was definitely encouraging. And what else? You know, a lot of the, I'm trying to think. I mean, like, a lot of it is actually like just the small indie game space, like the stuff that floats by. Like, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Sonoshi, who's, I believe, a Turkish game developer who just came out with a text adventure sort of game, visual text adventure called Critters for Sale. His stuff is very, very gorgeous and interesting to me. And there are several other like smaller indie developers whose work, that to the degree that I'm able to engage with it, has been a huge inspiration. I'm kind of blanking on a few of the handles, but I think that's probably the space that I enter with the most interest. And I'm always seeing things, but because, you know, it's, I think with like the itch stuff, and y'all probably know about this stuff better than I do, but it's just, the stakes feel low. You feel like you don't have a lot of people watching you. You know, you're just like uploading any random shit that you feel like making. And so like the range of experimentation is so wide, and just all kinds of interesting things percolate up that are deeply personal and whimsical and otherwise unconventional, you know. And I think that's something I take a lot of inspiration from.
I wanted to chime in and just add that we definitely talked a lot about Disco Elysium, specifically like narratively, but
Oh yeah, for
also
sure.
just how they handle their dialogue and sort of how they handle branching dialogue and sort of discovering dialogue just by, naturally interacting with the text. And then the other one that I think I personally take influence from a lot, specifically just in the more interactive mechanics, is definitely Undertale. Just because of how it's sort of mixed and like created a whole bunch of just unique mechanics based on what was happening in the game, more so than just sticking to a rigid set of mechanics there.
Any other questions? All right. Well, personally, I'm Calder. I'm the guy who reached out to you. I really, you talked earlier about, I guess, how the internet is a cruel and terrible place. I just want to say I really enjoy the Discord that you and your Patreons have sort of fostered. It's one of the most unique Discords I've ever been to. Everyone's talking about
and things.
It's literature recommendations. It's Southern art. It's a wonderful collection of music. I guess I'm wondering, what's it like to kind of foster a space like that seems very different online?
I really appreciate that. I think it's an amazing community, and it kind of happened by accident. I just invited, I opened it up at first it was just me and Aaron, it was just a dev channel. And I opened it up to simultaneously send out invites to a few friends who I just wanted to keep up with. And we had started like a theory channel where we were just like talking about Deleuze and stuff. And I think that set the tone early on, where we were just, there's a lot of kind of philosophical conversation, but then more and more gamers were kind of starting to enter into the philosophy, and the game interest started to dovetail. And then some musician friends who have kind of been like orbiting around the project entered. And yeah, we accidentally cultivated the space that, you're right, is like this. And I think this is true of a lot of Discords, and I think it's true of y'all's Discord. I think y'all's Discord is like super cozy. Like, you hear the term cozy web sometimes. Like, I think these, or I think, what's the other word? Like dark forest spaces, which are these quasi-private spaces of the internet that are more of a refuge from the chaos and the noise and the judgment and the bickering and that all of those kinds of things. Because the internet I'm like everyone else. I love it. And I hate it, and it's good and it's bad and it's scary and it's wonderful. But having a place that feels like home, something that you can return to, that's like a nourishing place where people actually, care about each other's feelings very explicitly and regulate conversations in such a way as to make sure that it's human scale conversations. I think it's important to have. And I haven't been able to moderate it very much at all because of working on the game just constantly. But I do believe in that kind of stuff. I think having those kinds of spaces is really good, and I think cultivating it consciously. One way that I think about it is you're creating a place where it's not regulated by algorithms. So you have to go out and forage your own interesting content. And so you're like bringing home this artisanal content from elsewhere on the internet. And I think that if you're thinking about it that way, and you're sort of like consciously cultivating this place where you're like finding things that fell through the cracks in the algorithms, then you're going to make a better place and a more interesting place, in my opinion.
All right. Well, cool. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Should we start wrapping up and get our little one announcements in?
Yeah, it's like some time, 7:45. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Robots and Aaron.
Yeah, thank y'all. That was really great. It's awesome to hear about the game and like see the art and hear about like what sort of went on behind your eyeballs to sort of create something like that. It's very, very cool. I think we all learned a bit of history about, this great place we all live in now. But yeah, thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, hopefully next time I'm in town, I'm going to try and drop in on one of y'all's meetups. It seems awesome.
Oh, hell yeah, definitely. You're more than welcome. Everyone's welcome, in fact. If you're on the internet and you're watching us, I think the cameras have a low battery thing, so you can't see me, but I'm just going to stare at the camera anyway. You're on the internet and watching us, you can join us on the third Thursday of every month. Probably right here in Sea Cave. If we get a few more people, we might have to find a bigger spot. But for now, we're going to meet at Sea Cave. So come and join us third Thursday of every month, 6 p.m. for mingling and 7 p.m. for presentations, like our wonderful one tonight with our wonderful guests. Thank y'all so much for coming.
One last little announcement.
Yeah, and we have
Appreciate it, y'all. Have a good one.
Thank y'all. We have a community announcement to give. Calder, you can. This is your baby. You can take the reins here. I'll take the camera.
So yeah, we have our seasonal jams. We just have blueberry jam, and now that everyone's kind of around here, we're gonna have strawberry jam. We're gonna keep having different game jams based on fruits. It's going to be a little bit different since we can all kind of be together for the first time in a long time. We're going to have it as sort of a hybrid jam. We still want to maintain the 10 days because I personally really like the 10-day structure. It's not like a terrible, stressful thing, and it makes these seasonal things a little bit earlier. But we're going to have an opening sort of thing here. We're going to have work days at scale along the weekends and during the week. As well, we'll still have classes, and we'll still have potentially more and different, weirder classes to kind of come in, potentially in person, potentially not. We'll see about all of that. The cabinet's over there. Unfortunately, the cabinet, due to the wonderful power grid of New Orleans, has suffered a surge and isn't turning on right now. But as soon as it does turn on, we've been able to get a lot of y'all's games from the last jam on there, and getting some pretty fun responses, and in particular, I've been seeing a lot of people play Figure Hate, which is really kind of neat. It's a little ice skating game where you can, you ever play Don't Break the Ice when you're a kid, and you kind of tap out the ice, and you don't want to, be the person to make it all fall down? It's like that, but it moves, and there's a clown on a Zamboni who wants to kill you. But anyways, same deal as before, mostly, except we're going to have some in person. If you don't want to be in person, we'll still be having, the bulk of it online, and we'll still have our organizational channels online. But, we can get all the good stuff of, looking over each other's shoulders and seeing what each other's working on. Being able, if you don't have somebody, which has been more difficult during the pandemic, if you don't have a team, actually being able to walk out to people and sort of making a team. And hopefully more classes. I really like doing the classes. I really like the classes that we get. And if anyone's interested in teaching, please let me know. I would love to sort of get more people involved. Additionally, if anyone wants to help, get the word out or any other organizational stuff, I'm always welcome to have more volunteers around here. It's fun to have days where I bike around putting flyers up, but it's hot and I don't want to do it all by myself. But yeah. As with before, all these games are probably going to go on the cabinet. They don't have to be there, but that's the main goal.
It doesn't have to be a jam game to go on there either.
Yeah, no, anything can go on the cabinet. So if you have a game that just even marginally works with the control scheme up on that cabinet, I will find a way to make it work, and it can go on the cabinet. Specs are pretty all right, so unless you're having some sick ray tracing stuff for your personal projects, I'm sorry. I can't find a GPU. I don't think anyone can right now. But yeah, any game can go on there. The jam games definitely go on there, and we'll put a little logo next to it so we can show off when you made it for that jam. If you want to keep on the game after the jam, totally cool. If you want to sell the game after the jam, I don't care. Have fun. But yeah, that's the general brief of it. We'll have a lot more details coming up soon. The itch page will be going up tonight. We'll update the website as soon as we can. But yeah, if y'all have any questions about that, and if not, I think we can wrap things up.
Well, if anyone has any other announcements that weren't our announcements, do you want to give? This is time. This is the community, so y'all have announcements too, I'm sure. Or if you don't, I don't care. I'm easy to please. Okay, I guess not. Alright, well, thank you all for joining us here in person and on the internet, and in the future, looking back at the recording. Yeah, thanks so much for coming. We'll be back here, same bat place, same bat channel, same bat